If you implement what I'm about to tell you, you will have bigger arms. My arms have grown continuously over the past year and it hasn't been accidental. So without further ado, here's my 6-step process to get bigger arms. Step number 1, I bulked. Now I'm not saying that you can't get bigger arms if you're on a cut or on a body recomp, but if I was to get bigger arms to save my life, so let's say somebody puts a gun to my head and says, if you don't get bigger arms, you're going to die. I would immediately go into a calorie surplus and start bulking because it is the most surefire way to get bigger arms. I mean, you pretty much get bigger everything. You get bigger everywhere if you're on a bulk, provided that you're training right, which brings me to my second step, which is I started training harder, way harder. Now, loads of people are just going to have like sirens going off in their brain, like, oh my God, you train so hard. What about recovery? You're going to overtrain. Here's the thing. It's really difficult to overtrain your arms, especially your biceps. The triceps, that's where, you can kind of overtrain your triceps. At least I can. I notice I have problems in my elbows when I start training triceps way too much or way too intensely. But for biceps, I'd say most people can absolutely destroy biceps, and provided that they eat enough protein and sleep well, I think they're going to be just fine to train biceps in the very next day. So the way I really got my biceps bigger was I did all sets, or at least almost all sets, all the way to failure. And the sets that I didn't do to failure, I left 1 rep in the tank. I really started pushing them hard because I realized that they could recover pretty well. So I was like, well, what's the point of not going 100% if they can recover just fine and I'm not going to run into any recovery issues, then might as well give it my all. It's crazy how the basics get you the most gains, which brings me to my third step, which is I focused on the fundamentals. Instead of doing 16 different exercises for every head of the bicep and training my brachioradialis separately, I only did 3 exercises which have been tried and tested for a long period of time. Those 3 exercises were the standing barbell curl, the standing cable curl, and the seated incline curl. I tried to execute all 3 of those exercises with perfect technique, which brings me to my fourth point, which is I prioritize form over weight. Here's the thing, I've made this point before, but I know why people don't listen. It's really, really good for your ego when you're curling 100 pounds with terrible, pretty much horrendous form. It really massages your ego. I get it. I understand. You want to look cool. It's fine. But just realize that you're voluntarily skipping out on bicep gains when you do that. You're making a deal with yourself. You're pretty much telling yourself that, hey, I am going to that's fine. I get it. You want to look cool, but the deal that you're making is you're going to voluntarily skip out on bicep gains to look cool to people who don't even care about you. If that's something you want to do, then by all means go ahead. But if you really want to get big biceps, then prioritize form over weight. This is not a curling competition. We're not trying to see who can curl the most weight. If you want me to help you with your curling technique, then click the link in the description and book a free 15-minute call with me, and I'll help you for free. Or just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll help you anyways. The fifth step that I implemented was I started to care about the eccentric, which is basically just the part of the exercise where your muscle lengthens. So the way you let the weight go down really matters. If you're letting the weight go like this and just completely falling with it and just using momentum to curl like this, people curl like this in the gym. It's actually hilarious. Versus if you control the weight and let it go down relatively slowly, it doesn't have to be 5 to 6 seconds. It can be as a variation, but it has to be, I'd say, 2 seconds, ideally. So control the weight on the way down. The last thing that helped me grow my arms was that I prioritized them. Instead of doing them at the very end of my workouts, I did them halfway through my upper body work. Now again, if I had a gun to my head and I had to get bigger arms to save my life, I would probably train my arms at the very beginning of the workout. Now, would that mean that I would be inhibiting my back growth? Yes, but the deal is I die if I don't get bigger arms, not if I don't get a bigger back.